Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My dear student, Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to study the fourth lecture from the history and importance of the Hadith, and that lecture and that lesson will be of types of Hadith. Before, when you are given this question in the exam, you need to follow the proper method, that you need to at least write down 2 lines as a start. Okay, for example, start must be comprehensive and it must be a very beneficial, because don't use common words, don't use easy words to write down the start, because start is going to be the first impression of year towards examiner. So that is why choose words wisely. Okay, Sanad, second important hadith is the second source of Islamic law. It is also called the foundation of Islam. Because of Sanad and Matan, scholars divided the hadith into different types. They have set different rules and checks in order to know whether hadith is authentic or not. They have made some rules and check in order to divide the hadith into different types. This is how you need to write down the start. Okay, now types. So the first type is known as authentic or Sahih hadith. As we have studied that actually hadith has 2 parts, Sanad and Matan. Got it? So because of Sanad and Matan, the scholar made some checks, some rules to know whether hadith is authentic or not. So they have set different checks for both, for Sanad and on the Matan. When we say that hadith is authentic hadith, we need to see a specific criteria, a specific qualities in the matan and in the same way in the sanad. If all criteria are checks which was made by the scholars of Islam like Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, if they can be found in a specific hadith in the matan and in the sanad, then that hadith will be known as authentic hadith. Okay, let's start studying about the criteria or checks made by the Islamic scholar as far as matan is concerned. Okay, so number 1, matan should not be against the Qur'an. This is the most important activity, that matan should not be against the Qur'an or other reliable sources, and it should not mean that it should not be against the ijma and the basic principle of Islam. If a matan is against these rules, then the hadith will not be authentic. Got it? If hadith had this criteria, that is not against the Holy Quran, ijma and the basic principle. In the same way, it should not be against the common sense or reasons, nature or law of nature. Thirdly, it should not be against the family of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, nor his companion. The words of the Holy Prophet should not be against the companion or the family of the Holy Prophet, peace upon him. And the hadith should not praise a particular person or tribe. Got it? It should not be against a particular tribe or a particular person, and in the same way it should not praise some kind of a proper people of the society. Okay, in the same way it should not oppose the historical fact, because many historical fact has been passed in the history, so hadith must not be against the historical fact. Okay, it should be reported by all the people who have met each other. Got it? This is another activity. And next is, it should not lay down punishment for minor offenses or promises higher reward for the minor good deeds. So these must have this criteria as well, that it should not announce some kind of a very severe punishment or for hell for a minor bad deeds. Okay, so these are the few criteria that must be in the matan. If all criteria can be found in the matan, mean that hadith is authentic. Now let's study towards the criteria or checks made by Islamic scholars on the sanad. So as far as sanad is concerned, it must be full and unbroken. Got it? Narrator mentioned in it must be known for their knowledge. So the narrators, the people who have narrating hadith from one person to another person, the muhaddiseen, they must have some specific qualities in their character, in their nature, in their behavior. We are going to study one by one. Number one, they must be known for their knowledge. They must be a knowledgeable person. They must be pious. Piety should be in them, that they should not do some bad deeds, and they are supposed to stick themselves on the good deeds all the time. They must have a good memory, mean that they know they must have information in their mind in a proper way. They must have memorized the word in the proper way. Okay. Trustworthiness, people must have trust in them, that these are the good people, these are the people of good nature. So people must have trust in them. Okay. And next is the narrators must have met each other. Got it? Because how this is possible for a person that he is narrating from a person that with whom actually he has no meeting. For example, a teacher used to explain things in the class and students are listening to him, and they are going to narrate the words of the teacher to their fellows, to their friends, family members. That how a student can narrate the words of a teacher who has not came in his class or in her class. So the narrator must have a meeting with their teacher with whom he is listening. The chain or information must go back to the Prophet, peace be upon him, because there must be no missing of any person in the name of the narrators, because narrator might be 2, 3, 4 and 5. It depends upon the time where Holy Prophet actually was there. So it must go back to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. This is another activity, mean that actually the transmission should not be unbroken. There should be no missing of a narrator. All narrators should be in a proper line. It should be a proper way. And the narrator must have an age, a specific age where he knows the importance of hadith, where he can memorize the hadith, where he can transmit the hadith in a proper way. The hadith of an insane or of a child is not acceptable by the Muslim scholars. The narrator must be a Muslim. This is the important activity. The narrator must be a Muslim, because non-Muslim cannot narrate the hadith, and Islamic scholars don't used to accept the hadith of those person who were the non-Muslim. So these are the criteria made by the Muslim scholar in order to know the authentic or sahih hadith. If all these criteria can be found in a hadith, that hadith will be known as authentic or sahih hadith. Okay, let's move towards the second type of hadith, approved or hasan hadith. The hadith is similar to authentic hadith, but except of one point. If there is a hadith that is actually used to fulfill all the criteria which has been made by the Muslim scholar, but it used to miss just one point. Okay, what is that point? The narrator has been found defected in memory. If there is a narrator within the chain of the narrator, and it is said actually he sometimes used to forget things. Sometimes he can't remember what he heard from the Holy Prophet or from his teacher. So mean that this hadith will fall into second category, that is known as approved or hasan hadith. One change in the narration, in the characteristics of the narrator, the hadith will fall into the second category, that is known as hasan hadith. Third is weak or fabricated hadith. Okay, weak or zaif hadith. If there's two changes in it. If the narrator actually are going to have two negative points in his personality or in his character, mean that hadith is going to be considered as a weak hadith. Okay, what are those? Number one, a narrator known to be liar or a bad memory. For example, there is a rumor about him, or there people used to talk about him, that person is a liar and also had a bad memory. Got it? So in the same way, the sanad is unbroken, mean that the person who is narrating hadith from a person, he never met him in his life. So if these three criteria are over there in a hadith, that hadith will be known as weak or zaif hadith. Okay. last, the fabricated hadith. So fabricated hadith is a hadith, it's a very clear thing, okay? Fabrication means to make something by yourself, the something which was not ever there in the history or in somewhere, and you have made it by yourself. Okay, something not said or done by the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, but a person attributed that actually these are the words or the action of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. This type of hadith is known as fabricated hadith or Mawzu hadith. Got it? So these are the 4 types of hadith. You need to read the chapter carefully, try to make the notes and understanding. If you have the proper knowledge of the first hadith, authentic or approved hadith, it would be easy for you to classify, it would be easy for you to understand the rest of the types of hadith. Okay, my dear student, this is the lecture of the day. Tomorrow inshallah we are going to study the next lecture, lecture number 5. Until then, Allah Hafiz.